All right, folks. Well, I think we're close enough to the top of the hour to kind of kick things off here. Just want to start by welcoming everybody today who's joining us for the Atlassian Intelligence webinar. My name is Sam Ayers. I'm a delivery manager and Atlassian certified expert here at Valiantis, and wanted to give Joshua a chance to also introduce himself. So, Joshua.
Yeah, so I'm Joshua Dimitri. I'm a software development manager at Valiantis. So I'm spending time with customers and walking through custom solutions and how to build out those features that might not exist out of the box.
Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. All right, so let's go ahead and just real briefly before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the content that we want to share, I just want to just talk on a high level about Valiantis. And if you're not familiar with who we are, just give you a sense of who we are and what we do. So kind of lightning round here about us. We've worked with Atlassian for 16 years and have been a partner with them throughout that whole time period. We are one of three global partners with Atlassian, and we have over 2,000 customers worldwide. We are a 12-time Atlassian Partner of the Year award winner. We have 52% certified consultants, 52% more certified consultants than our second largest partner. So in other words, we have a lot of folks within our organization who know what they're doing, know what they're talking about within the Atlassian ecosystem compared to our competitors. We are, maybe most importantly, our key takeaway here is we're a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. And Platinum Solutions partners have a deep understanding of Atlassian's products, as well as experience implementing and customizing these products for our clients. So it's a special designation that we've received from Atlassian. And this also means that we provide a series of services that I like to talk about on a high level. And those are chiefly among those, but not excluded to. There's Atlassian consulting, training, and then also custom development that we specialize in. So in the realm of Atlassian consulting, our services specialize in the full Atlassian suite of tools, catering to organizations of various sizes. In the realm of training, we provide extensive training programs and webinars, not unlike the one you're attending right now. And then we also offer separate what we call boot camps for Jira software, Jira Service Management, Confluence, and Jira Line. And these boot camps are intensive 3 to 5 day courses specifically designed for Jira admins to really either A, augment what you already know, or B, kind of get your feet wet as a Jira admin. It's also important to note we offer agile and safe training for those that are kind of in the agile world or organizations that are wanting to pursue agility. And then we also, on a much maybe reduced scale permissions wise, within Jira, we have what we call Atlassian user academies. So we have juxtaposed to a boot camp, we have user academies, which are multi-day courses that are training for everyday users within Atlassian. So you're not quite at that admin level, but you need to kind of know how to navigate the tool set as an everyday user. And then what I like to refer to kind of the three-prong wing of our business, I mentioned training, I mentioned Atlassian consulting. We also have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the realm of custom development. So our in-house software developers can create customized solutions spanning from app development to crafting unique user interfaces that maybe live in quotes on top of Jira products or Atlassian products rather. And so the short version in the realm of custom solutions, it's kind of our secret sauce. And basically, if you have a solution in mind that doesn't currently exist natively within the tooling, we can help bring that dream to a reality, so to speak. All right. So enough about us for now. I want to jump into an agenda. So let's talk about what we're going to be planning, or I'm sorry, let's talk about what we want to talk about for this webinar. So first kind of topic I want to cover is what is Atlassian Intelligence? We're going to talk about some pricing information, Atlassian Intelligence demos. We're going to talk about Atlassian Intelligence features and functionality within Jira Software, Confluence, and JSM specifically. We'll talk about what's coming soon. And then Joshua is going to deep dive into Atlassian Intelligence with custom solutions and talk about maybe some of the possibilities there. And then we'll have a quick plug for some upcoming webinars and online content that can be available to you. And then we'll try to leave some time at the end for Q&A. And just a reminder too, quick heads up, if you have any questions as we're moving through the content, feel free to put them in the chat. We like to tackle these at the end of the session. I try, or Joshua and I try to leave about 10 minutes or so to go through those. So please, as you're thinking about them, as it's fresh in your mind, go ahead and drop those in the Q&A. All right. So as promised, the first thing I want to talk about is just Atlassian Intelligence on a high level. And I'm going to make an attempt to answer these two questions, which is, what is it? Maybe you're new to Atlassian Intelligence and you just kind of want to know what it is. And also, I'm going to try and answer on a high level, how does it work? So Atlassian Intelligence at its core helps teams accelerate work, increase efficiency, and ultimately provide value faster using Atlassian Intelligence. So for example, it allows you to generate and transform content within Atlassian products. It allows you to summarize critical details. It also has enhanced searching capability that allows you to find the work that you need fast. And there's much, much more. Those are kind of three common features within the tool itself that we like to draw attention to, and you'll see as we go into our demonstrations later. Atlassian Intelligence leverages artificial intelligence developed internally by Atlassian and then also from OpenAI. So it uses what's called the teamwork graph, which is unique to your team's project or service work, along with internal language models and OpenAI to deliver the results specific to your organization's context. So you may be asking, that's all great, but how does this all work? So Atlassian Intelligence combines state-of-the-art models developed by OpenAI with the power and data inside the Atlassian platform. So this means that Atlassian provides a native artificial intelligence experience that is contextual to you, your teams, and your workflows, all in a way that respects the privacy of your data. And that last statement's a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next, which is kind of a hot button topic in AI in general, and that is in the realm of tech and data security. So as we know, there's a lot of uncertainty around AI nowadays. It's very new and kind of fresh for a lot of folks, and organizations are trying to understand and navigate the waters of how do I use this in a very effectual or the most effectual way within my organization. And I want to say right out of the gates that the biggest question that we get asked about AI is, how is the data I put into the tool being handled by Atlassian? And that's a valid question, right? Well, I want to say specifically, Atlassian Intelligence is opt-in only. And it's opt-in only at the org admin level. So if you're familiar with Jira permissions, org admin is kind of the keys to the kingdom permission set. And I want to mention that because you have to intentionally switch Atlassian Intelligence on. If you have cloud, it's not like Atlassian push an update and it's just readily available and usable and consumable by your users by default. Also, something important to note real quickly, you can switch Atlassian Intelligence on a tool by tool basis. So to point out, you could have it turned on for Confluence, but then toggled off for Jira. So that's important to note as well. It's when you flip it on, it's just not on by default across the board. You have to intentionally flip it on for a tool by tool basis or on a tool by tool basis. Something important to note as well, inputs and outputs from AI, none of them are stored by Atlassian, so or used by their partners like us to train models. So inputs and outputs, just to be clear, in this case, refer to data users type into Atlassian products, which are in turn analyzed by Atlassian Intelligence. None of that is stored. Atlassian Intelligence also respects existing Jira permissions and data residency. So for example, Atlassian Intelligence is going to respect whether or not you have access to the issues that you're trying to query against. So case in point or an example would be you've got an HR project within your organization and you've got sensitive data stored within those HR issues. Atlassian Intelligence is going to respect that issue level security and not allow you to see more than what you should see. It doesn't supersede, another way of saying it doesn't supersede Jira permissions. All data, just as a quick side note as well, is processed and transmitted in accordance with Atlassian's privacy policy, data processing addendum, and also GDPR commitment. It doesn't support, quick note on this, SOC 2 or ISO 27001 or HIPAA, so keep that in mind as well, specifically with HIPAA if you're a healthcare organization. It leverages OpenAI. So Atlassian Intelligence does currently leverage large language models from OpenAI. However, each data request, I hopefully this assuages any concern here, is sent to OpenAI individually over SSL encrypted services to process and send back to Atlassian. So hopefully I'm painting a picture here that Atlassian has your privacy and your data residency as most importance, or at least holding that in a place of high importance. With this particular tool, Atlassian takes privacy very seriously when it comes to your data. Let's pivot to talking about pricing just very quickly. Atlassian Intelligence is only available on cloud. And it's only available currently at the premium and enterprise tiers. So keep that in mind. There was a time where beta users were able to use it in standard. I believe that wrapped in late June of this year. It's only available for premium and enterprise. Also, there are currently no limits on usage. And I have for now in parentheses because don't be surprised if limits are added in the future. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into demonstrations of some of Atlassian Intelligence functionality within the tools. And I want to start by looking at a few of the more prominent features that are available within Jira today. So real quick, let me actually kind of briefly introduce the project and Confluence space that I'll be demonstrating in. And basically, this is a Jira work management project that I created that has kind of the theme of a marketing team that's doing various campaigns or marketing campaigns within their team. And so that's kind of the theme we're working with, at least on the Jira side. And then also on the Confluence side, we have kind of a more general marketing space that our marketing team is also working in. So these will be kind of our demo environments, at least for my portion of the demonstration today. So as I kind of mentioned, I think earlier on, Atlassian Intelligence allows users to generate and transform content. That's one of the biggest things that we see folks using it for today, and it's pretty powerful. You can create content based on a prompt, meaning I can type within a prompt that I'll show you in a moment and say, generate this content. You can rephrase content or you can restructure it. And so let's take a look at an example of each. And I'm going to start by digging into this AMC4 issue here. And this description here, upgrade to billing system now requires us to launch a new marketing campaign. Now, this issue tells us what we want to do or what we need to do, but not necessarily how we're going to go do it. So maybe I want somebody to take this task, but I need a little bit more detail added to it. So let's flesh out this issue description a little bit more using Atlassian Intelligence. So I'm going to highlight this text. And if you have Atlassian Intelligence enabled in your system, you'll see this writing assistant or Atlassian Intelligence icon here available to you to click. And this is where you can start typing something, or you've got some pre-selected options you can select as well. But in this case, let's say I want to add some details, or sorry, add some ideas for how to approach leveraging social media for a marketing campaign. And if I could spell, let me add a G to campaign and hit enter. Nice. So immediately we have a numbered list and some ideas to consider on how we would execute this task. That's great. So let's go ahead and click replace there. And boom, we already have a fully or more fully fledged out issue description that we can give to somebody and give them some ideas of how they would want to complete this task. Um, Another thing that we could do as well is, or at least one of the things that I want to show you guys is how we can rephrase some content. So as far as rephrasing content goes, we can rephrase the description that we just created. Or I can actually rephrase some of these comments that I have down here below. So let me highlight this text, and let's say we want to change the tone of this or change it to be more professional. So I can click this pre-selected option of changing it to be more professional. Um, and actually, this sounds a little bit more professional than what we had before, but to optimize and use social media for updating marketing campaign, it is advisable to take into account the following suggestions. So another way to reword it, you can also retry and you might get a different result. And so that's one way we can kind of rephrase the content. Like I mentioned as well, I've got comments within this issue as well that I can rephrase. I've got this kind of maybe a comment that could be perceived as snarky. Maybe that wasn't my intention, but I've got a note here that says, is anyone reading these? So I could go in and edit this comment and do the same thing and click Atlassian Intelligence and say, maybe I want to be more empathetic. Is there anyone out there reading these? So it sounds a little bit more hopeful, maybe, and maybe less direct. But just showing you again, within the UI, within the tool itself, you've got some quick options where you can rephrase content rather quickly. You have options to restructure. So that was kind of the third thing I meant, or third thing I mentioned rather, that you can do with some content. So let's discard this. And let me add back we'll save our changes here. And let's say I want to restructure this. So this is a great list, but maybe I'm really OCD and I want to restructure this list alphabetically by the first character. Great. So if I go into Atlassian Intelligence after selecting my content here, let's say restructure the list alphabetically based on the first character in each line and see what it does. Perfect. So looked at the first character and restructured it again, just showing that you can get pretty granular with how you restructure this data. So in conclusion, we have a much more operable task, in my opinion, for our team. It's much more detailed than what we ultimately started with. I could take this as a team member and have a clear understanding of what ultimately my marketing manager or manager in general is asking me to do, all leveraging the power of Atlassian Intelligence's ability to create, rephrase, and restructure content. Honestly, in seconds. You could do this without all of my talking in a matter of seconds, and you have a much more actionable task. There's another feature that I kind of want to pivot to very quickly that I'm really excited about as a Jira admin myself, and that is Atlassian Intelligence's ability to create automation rules. And so reforming content and restructuring it is really, really cool, kind of in line with all of us who are kind of messed with ChatGPT for any length of time. But just showing too that Atlassian Intelligence kind of operates even outside of the realm of just even restructuring or rewording text. So if I go to automation rules, let's create an automation rule using AI. So I'll click this button up here at the top that says create with AI. And I've got my line or prompt here that I can work with. So just setting the stage here, let's say I'm a project manager and it would be commonplace for a project manager to maybe not need to be in the granularity or bogged down in the granularity of day-to-day tasks, but needing to know kind of on a high level how things are going. And so I'm thinking of there's a PM task that has some subtasks under it, and a lot of folks are working on those subtasks, but maybe the PM just wants to know when those subtasks are complete or needs to be notified when those subtasks are complete. So let's create a rule that would let a PM know that all subtasks have been completed. assuming that they're watching the issue already within Jira. So within the prompt, let's type something like when all subtasks are completed, add a comment to the parent letting the signee know. So you're just telling a story. And I hit enter. Let's see what it does. Perfect. So I've got when an issue is transitioned to done for parent, if subtasks equal done, all subtasks are completed, add a comment, please review the parent issue. Not bad. That really honestly kind of gets us there, doesn't it? And you can see in a matter of seconds, I've built this rule. Now, as Jira admins, we can be pretty savvy and we understand branch rules and we can build this rule rather quickly. However, Atlassian Intelligence, I would argue, just did it faster without us clicking through the UI. Let's do one more. Maybe there are some cases, and I wanted to highlight this as well. There may be some cases where Atlassian Intelligence can get you close, but maybe not all the way to building out a rule, depending on its complexity. And that's okay. I think the point with Atlassian Intelligence is that it's saving us a bunch of time building versus building out a rule manually ourselves. So let's try a little bit more of a maybe an intense example here. We could say, maybe using our marketing team campaign example. What if a marketing asset issue type needs to be labeled in a certain way and also assigned a subtask under it by default? So just to save some time, I will copy this query into our chat. And you can see it's a little bit more lengthy, but I'm saying when an issue type of marketing asset is created, social media is in the issue summary, add the social media label and create a subtask under it. And let's click enter, or actually hit enter and see what it does. Nice. So when an issue is created, the issue type equals marketing asset. The summary contains the word social media, then add a label. Now, where it fell short, it wasn't able to pull in what I had designated for the issue summary of target influencers, but that's okay. In the case of this rule, it takes me 2 seconds to type in target influencers. And then also gives me the opportunity to add additional subtasks here below. So again, just further pointing out, Atlassian Intelligence can maybe in some cases get you 95% there and ultimately get you where you need to be. Real quick, just wanted to show issue or an issue search. Let's go to view all issues. So AI lets us search for issues very, very quickly. And I want to point out, ultimately, it does this without us needing to know JQL, which is Jira Query Language, or lets us or keeps us from having to navigate through drop-down menus to create the filter that we're wanting to create. Again, both of those are viable options and ultimately how we had to do business prior to having Atlassian Intelligence. But just to show you, if I click the Atlassian Intelligence button, just a quick, easy search could be search for all issues assigned to me, and that also have the words social media in the summary. And I hit enter, and boom, I have a very honed list, as in one result where the issues assigned to me and social media is in the summary. What's really nice is the JQL query that results at the bottom. So if you're learning JQL, this is actually a really great way to do it. You can have AI do the heavy lifting and then ultimately see the result afterwards, just as a quick side note. Let's do one more quick example here. Let's say search for all issues, or we'll just say all issues assigned to me and are due in the next month. So now we have a time-based constraint that we've added. And I will say, when I was learning Jira Query Language, the time-based queries were the most difficult, honestly. And so you have Atlassian Intelligence tackling that with ease in a matter of seconds. And you also have the syntax down below that you can reference as well for learning purposes. But here you go. I've got a very home list of issues. So um, pretty powerful feature here. Let's go back to our slideshow just briefly and want to talk about some things that are coming soon within Jira AI features. So in the realm of generating AI within the editor, meaning in the description field, comment field, you name it, anywhere where editing is happening, you can reference Jira tickets in prompts or reformat Jira issue descriptions in the future. So that's exciting. In the realm of breaking work down, you'll eventually be able to break down projects into relevant subtasks and child issues. I find that one very interesting. And then when it comes to related content within Jira, you'll eventually have the option to automatically surface related content like Confluence pages on issues. So some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. All right. Now I want to pivot to looking at Confluence before I pitch it over to Joshua to look at Jira Service Management. So similar to what we saw within Jira, Atlassian Intelligence allows you to generate and transform content in the exact way based on a prompt, rephrasing the content, or restructuring it. And this may be more meaningful, or I would argue it's more meaningful within Confluence because we know Confluence is going to have much more text than, say, on a user story for a development team. And so I feel this is where this functionality gets very powerful, very helpful, very quickly. So with that, let's talk about creating content based on a prompt within Confluence. So while this is a marketing team space, like I mentioned at the front end of our time together, let's pretend we are, just to give you a different use case, let's pretend we're a development team about to jump into Agile Scrum ceremonies. And as a Scrum Master, it might be helpful to have an outline for those ceremonies that my team can follow. And maybe imagine you are trying to reach a consensus amongst other Scrum Masters and how ceremonies should be conducted. So I'm going to start with a totally blank page nested under this one, just for the sake of the demonstration. And I'm just going to click into the body of the page or potential page that we're working on. And I'm just going to click write. And very quickly, you can see I'm just going to write, create an outline for Scrum ceremonies and hit enter. That's it. And in seconds, I have a full outline for Scrum ceremonies that I could choose to adopt right out of the gates if I feel like it's sound, or I can edit and change as needed. But in this case, all I have to do, I can either rerun the query, copy the text if I want to use it somewhere else, which is also an important little feature to mention, and then I can insert it into the page. And so in this case, I'm happy with what's presented, and boom, in seconds, I've created a whole page that I could literally take to a meeting in minutes and operate off of. And what I'm going to do is copy this into the actual page title here, just to clean it up a bit, click publish, and I can choose who I want to be able to see it. In this case, I want it kind of open to the rest of everyone in the organization, and I have my page ready to go. So very, very quickly, you can see I've got a meaningful document that I can share, distribute, use in a meeting. Going back to our marketing team and keeping in line with what this space is being used for within our organization, say I need to develop a grassroots marketing campaign. Let's try that. So under this particular page, let's go back to release readiness, click create a page, go to write, and I just need to type in create. Or let's say maybe better wording would be provide steps to develop a grassroots marketing campaign. Got to remember the G in campaign, and also there's a T in marketing, and then hit enter. And I have multiple steps that are a result within this that, again, I could click insert, add, and then give my page a title, and I'm ready to go. And then I can click publish, and my page is ready to go. So really, again, creating within a prompt within Confluence is really, really powerful. In the realm of rephrasing content, let's try rephrasing some content in one of our existing pages. So if I go to um, this page here, or no, actually, let's go to this one up here at the top. Yeah, under this one here. So I've got some language here that maybe could be perceived as negative or too direct, maybe by some parties. The company's been losing customers over the past 3 years, particularly in the 18 to 35 age bracket. If I go to edit here up at the top, very similar to Jira, I just select the text and then I can choose to rewrite it here, or I can click Atlassian Intelligence button here and have much more or many more options. And so let's change to an empathetic tone. And you can see that I have a text that's a totally different voice, but ultimately communicates the same thing very quickly, very easily. Okay. In the realm of restructuring, so we covered rephrasing content just now. Let's share an example of restructuring the content. So something that I find very helpful as a project lead on my own projects is I'm scrambling either presenting like I am today, and I'm taking notes as people are talking and trying to present, and at the same time, and ultimately, I end up with some notes that are kind of chicken scratch, for lack of better term. So I've labeled my page aptly named "Shoddy Notes" by Sam, and I've just got kind of a series of bullets that'll kind of help me remember some things. But again, it's ultimately kind of almost secretary writing of only that I'm going to be able to determine what's going on. But let's say I've got a need to pull some action items out of this text. And so what I can do is edit the page, and even though the notes aren't great, I can pull action items out of these rather quickly using AI. So if I go into write, right at the very top, fourth from the top, I should say, you have this option. It's really, really cool to find action items. So if I click find action items, it creates basically an action items macro with checkboxes and that I can insert below the text that I just created. And boom, I already have a meeting notes page that is much more meaningful. And even if folks can't determine what my chicken scratch is, they know what they're supposed to go do coming out of the meeting. And again, some of this might require minor changes or minor edits to make it more meaningful. But again, it gets you either 100% there or 95% there to where you just have to make a few tweaks. I don't know about you guys, but I can spend a lot of my week just going through and cleaning up meeting notes manually. And this is where Atlassian Intelligence can really save you a lot of time. The one of the quick feature that I wanted to show you guys as well, if I go to this release readiness page, there is an option for Atlassian Intelligence to define terms for you. I will say this is in beta, so don't necessarily expect a lot of consistency on responses here, but you can select a term and define it right within the Confluence page, even outside of the editing UI. And last, but certainly not least, a very powerful feature that I wanted to at least touch on very briefly is the ability to summarize pages that are already published. So there's a lot of text here. Maybe I don't have time to kind of assimilate or read through everything here. I can click the summarize button up at the top and have a really quick summary, or at least a smaller block of text to kind of digest if I really need to kind of get the gist of what's going on. And you can effectively do this on any page within Confluence. So I'm on this mobile first project charter, for example. A lot of text here, a lot of information in tables that may be difficult for me to kind of digest quickly. I can click summarize, and ultimately I get a high level of what this document is trying to say. I can copy the text and ultimately help AI in the future determine whether or not this was a good or bad response and help Atlassian improve. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back to our presentation real quick. I wanted to just run through some of the features that are coming soon for Confluence. So let me switch to this page. So a lot coming down the pipeline for Confluence, which is really exciting. So As it pertains to generating content within an editor screen, you will soon be able to reference Confluence pages and Jira tickets and prompts. There's also going to be some readability suggestions. So not unlike if you're familiar with Microsoft Word, there's a lot of times where Word's trying to help you kind of rephrase things. You'll have a similar functionality within Atlassian Intelligence functionality. Summaries, you'll be able to summarize inline comments, which is really interesting. You'll also have a page catch-up feature where you can understand recent and important changes in pages, which is kind of neat. Lots of functionality coming to whiteboards, which is kind of fun. You can brainstorm ideas from Confluence pages, Jira tickets, and Jira product discovery insights, and then organize and group ideas into whiteboards. So it'll be really interesting to see some of that coming down the pipeline and see some further investment into whiteboards as a product within Atlassian. And then also AI content conversion. So you'll be able to convert a whiteboard into a page, which I find really fascinating. That'd be really cool to see in action. And then also convert a page into Jira tickets. I'm really interested in that one as well to see how AI is going to take content in a page and then ultimately be able to pull it into Jira issues. That'll be really interesting to me. I would say just a quick note, keep an eye on the cloud roadmap for when these features are going to be released. Atlassian's pretty transparent with timelines and how they're going to release features. And I would say that for both Jira and Confluence, and for anything that we're showing you today, for anything that's coming soon, just keep an eye on the roadmap. They try to give you at least a quarter kind of reference for when things are going to be released, whether it's Q1, Q2, et cetera. All right. Well, with that, I want to hand you over to the very capable hands of Joshua, who's going to kind of dive into some of the AI features briefly within Jira Service Management. So Joshua, take it away.
All right, well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and start walking through a little bit about JSM and how it plays into Atlassian Intelligence. And the main thing I want to talk about here is actually that with JSM, we kind of get to an area where we're going beyond just the capabilities of transforming and restructuring content and rephrasing things. Now, those capabilities are really great, and they still exist in JSM. So when we talk about the features we have available for Jira Service Management, we still have the ability to search issues with AI. We can still summarize and restructure and rephrase and define. All those same features we saw in Jira exist in JSM. But on top of that, we have JSM agents. And agents are going to be a great way for us to use AI to improve the workflows of our support teams and organizations. So when we talk about service management, we're talking about potentially having a pretty high volume of requests. A lot of support tickets might be coming in that we need to triage and deal with. And AI can help us to handle some of those easier tasks to reduce the load on our support teams a little bit. Now, the goal behind agents and behind really any AI tool that we're going to be putting into JSM is not to replace the support teams. It's not to replace the human interaction, because as we know from our anecdotes and experience from dealing with automated support lines or dealing with AI support lines even, for complex tasks and for things that are more challenging to handle, it can be really frustrating as a customer or as a user to interact with those non-human tools, and it gets better and better over time. But we're not trying to replace humans in that interaction. What we're trying to do is, for the tasks that can be handled really well and actually be handled faster by an automated tool and AI, we want to handle those things before it ever gets to the support staff that we have that should be handling those more complex issues. So what it's going to be able to do for us is it's actually going to be able to take any request that comes in. It's going to have some intent matching, so you can tell it to basically, like with a flowchart editor, you can go through and tell it if the intent of the questions sounds like a certain category. Go ahead and match it with this particular category of issue, or try and answer it from these Confluence pages. If it can't figure out, it has low confidence that it knows what you're trying to ask by that request, then it's going to search through the answers that may exist in your database or in your knowledge base, like Confluence. It's going to search through your pages that you attach to it, and you can kind of set what pages it has access to. And using those, it's going to be able to either answer that question or can actually take some small actions to help the user get answers and help on their request. So what that's going to do is, when you get questions like, hey, what's our HR policy? And that would be a question that could be pretty easily answered by just looking into the knowledge base, but that user just either didn't take the time to find it or wasn't able to find it. The AI and the AI agent on your portal can handle that request rather than passing through that kind of more menial or less complex task to the support staff so that they can focus on the things that are really more complex. So there are lots of things we could show with JSM. I think for the most part, a lot of these features are still in development and coming out, and we have access to a lot of things in agents already. But over time, we're going to see these features develop. And the main thing to be aware of is just that this feature does exist. So, in JSM with agents, these features are coming out and they're being created and built upon so that over time, as you implement Atlassian Intelligence into your workflows, you'll be able to alleviate some of that, high amount of tickets coming through to your support teams and be able to have some of those simple ones be handled. The other benefit that's really cool about AI agents is that because they aren't a human interacting with them, they can run 24/7. So maybe that means that if you have people in different time zones that are putting requests in at any hour, all of the simple requests will always be handled more immediately. So if you have somebody in a different time zone that for a very simple request might have to wait 24 hours before getting an answer, or 12 hours, or whatever it looks like based on time zones, with the AI agent, it might get answered a lot more quickly, which is going to be a really big benefit. So just be aware of these features as they're coming out. And we still get, like I said, all the amazing features we get from AI in Jira on top of those issues as well. Another thing that I want to talk about when we talk about service management is how we can equip the support teams that are still going to be working with these tickets, the more complex ones now, to more easily find answers and figure things out for the customers that they're dealing with. So that's going to actually come into play with Confluence Search. So if you are in Confluence, and this is that same demo instance, just not on any particular space at the moment, but inside of this instance, let's say I was a support engineer and I was dealing with a ticket, somebody was asking about HR policies. And let's say for whatever reason, the AI agent didn't handle this already, and it was maybe more complex of a request, but involved some knowledge that we needed from those HR policies. If I go to the search up here, you'll notice that now it actually says search or ask questions within your Confluence. And what that means is I can actually go in here and say, where can I read about our HR policy? And hit ask AI. And it's going to actually give me an answer based on searching through the pages in my instance and tell me, here are some places you can find for our HR policies. And like it shows here, this is a beta feature in a lot of ways, but it's already doing some really cool things, and you can ask it questions directly rather than having to think about, okay, I need to find HR policies. Let me search for the word HR. Let me search for this type of thing. It makes it a lot easier to just ask direct questions and get direct answers based on the sources that it's going to pull from here. So for example, we have new hire frequently asked questions as a reference for the answers it's providing here. And if we had better context and not just blank text in this page, we'd probably get really good answers for some things that might be important for HR policies based on that source. And we also have the source here where I can go and just look at all of the sources that it's using, and here's the full list of them. So I just wanted to point out that all these features together, including those AI agents in JSM, plus the searching features in Confluence, plus being able to quickly summarize comments. So for example, in JSM, you'll be able to go in, and if there are interactions happening back and forth, then the AI agent can actually create comments and respond to comments on your behalf. You'll be able to go through, and if that conversation happened between an AI agent and the customer, but then eventually got sent to you as a support engineer, you can hit a summarize button and get a summary of that whole conversation and be able to handle that quickly. So all these features together can kind of build this overall vision of how you can handle that information. Now, what I want to do is go kind of beyond the work management topics a little bit. And this beyond work management is just to kind of talk a little bit about custom solutions and development, and how does this play into kind of a greater organization scheme where we've got architecture beyond just our work management tools and service management. We're going to go a little bit further than that, because ultimately right now in the tech space, AI is kind of a buzzword and everybody's trying to implement AI across the board. So any organization is going to want some sort of AI features. And really, a lot of organizations at any size are looking for a way to get kind of a centralized approach to implementing AI features. That way they can handle security, they can handle all of the processing of that data and get really good, helpful responses across the organization. So what I want to do is first talk about the old way. And this is what it looks like today without Atlassian Intelligence if you were trying to implement your own version of AI across your organization. So this is a thing that many organizations have been doing, especially at larger scales because of the costs associated with this. But this is an example of a business probably at the enterprise scale that wants to have AI processing and large language model and lots of AI tools that are handled entirely in-house, and they don't want to do anything outside of their in-house data stores, and they're going to build their own AI feature set. So they're essentially going to build all those features that exist in Atlassian Intelligence, but they're going to build them for their whole organization inside the walls of their firewall. And if you kind of look at this diagram, you'll notice on the left, we've got all the Jira tools. On the right, these are like internal customer apps, so custom built apps and sources and databases. And then you've got some reporting databases and things like that. And all of that data can kind of feed into this custom data store in the middle. This custom data store is really just a database. It's some sort of a place to store that data from all of these different sources to compile it in a single location. That way we can use it for some AI processing. Then you would have to create some sort of custom application or custom process for taking that data, allowing you to create prompts against that data and send those prompts to some AI prompting and processing engine. This could either be sending it to OpenAI through the ChatGPT APIs, or it could be building an internal large language model that you were going to use for your business. And as you start walking through this, what you notice is that the things that we don't have here are the deep integration with our Atlassian tools. So I can't just go on a Jira ticket and hit a button and get answers. I have to go through this other application, then find the ticket that I want to get an answer about, then ask it a question, and then wait for the response to come back from OpenAI or from wherever I'm getting that model from. We also have all of these custom layers that are built, and the cost is just going to skyrocket as soon as you start doing this. You're going to need to have processing of this be handled by infrastructure in your business. You're going to be, spinning up development teams to handle this. If you look at this, you probably are going to have a team that handles the large language model, a team that handles this custom app, and a team that handles this infrastructure for the data store. You're going to have lots of developers needed to build this process. It gets expensive really quick, and you still don't get that tight integration with the Atlassian tools. So where does that take us with Atlassian Intelligence? It takes us here, which this is what it looks like with Atlassian Intelligence, just like we were just showing in our demos. So like Sam was walking through, all of those demos are kind of in this state of the world, where in our kind of blue Atlassian products square now, in this area, we have Atlassian Intelligence, and Jira Confluence and Jira Align and Enterprise Insights are interacting directly with Atlassian Intelligence and able to interact with that inside of the Atlassian walls. So this is what we were showing before, where you can get that tight integration. There's no need for building your own systems. And because we know that Atlassian has taken security a very strong approach to security, and they take that very seriously, we're able to basically just put all of the burden of security and integration of OpenAI and all these different pieces in a way that is safe. We can put that burden on Atlassian rather than having to build that internally for our organization. We get that tight integration, but one of the things that we're missing, as you'll notice here, is there's no connection point to these custom apps or external sources. And realistically, at a business of any scale, you're going to have more than one tool. You're going to have more than one place data is stored, and you're going to want to have some way to report on all of that data in a unified place. And the AI tools that you're building would be significantly more powerful if those AI tools could operate on more than just the data in your Atlassian stack, right? Your Jira tickets and your Confluence knowledge base are great. And if you kind of break those down to their core elements, you've just got the place that you manage your work, and you've got the place that you have all your knowledge stored. And those are kind of the main drivers of your organization. But outside of those things, you're going to have other sources of data, other databases, other custom applications, and you're going to want to be able to integrate those with your AI features. So how are we going to actually handle that? But go ahead and look at this slide here. This is kind of going to be the fully realized picture of custom solutions using Atlassian Intelligence and kind of the full scope of the Atlassian products. So I'm not going to go super in depth with Forge here, which is this word that you see that is kind of new, possibly. Forge is the Atlassian cloud development platform. So this is how we build custom applications on top of Atlassian. I'm not going to go super in depth there. There are other materials you can find through our website and training and webinars on our YouTube channel that will get a little bit more into Forge, and upcoming webinars might also contain some content around it. But Forge is going to be the way that we integrate and create external integrations with our Atlassian products, or that we build custom apps on top of those Atlassian products. So adding together Atlassian Intelligence, adding together Forge, and creating this whole picture, now you can see that we've created a system where our custom applications, the data from those apps, and the data from our other reporting databases and other locations and data lakes that exist in our organization can be through Forge as the connecting piece attached to our Jira and Confluence, as well as then get access to Atlassian Intelligence. So the way that we handle this in a lot of scenarios is we'll actually take data and represent them as Jira tickets, or take data and represent it as a Confluence page. And we're essentially just supplementing the data that Atlassian Intelligence has access to by creating a Forge connector to attach all these pieces to. So by adding in the data from our custom applications and external data sources, we are supplementing the data that Atlassian Intelligence has access to and allowing it to operate across the board. And as you start to look at this, it starts to really make a lot of sense, because like I was talking about before, Jira is acting as your place to manage work, and Confluence is acting as your place to store your knowledge base. And those two things drive a lot of your business. So with those things as kind of the main driver for a lot of the things that you do day to day, it makes a lot of sense in most cases to pull some of this external data and represent it within those systems. So having Jira tickets that represent the data from some other application that's managing the systems in some other part of your enterprise makes a lot of sense, because it ties it in with your management of work at that scale. And now we have access to Atlassian Intelligence on top of it. So I want to show a bit of an example of an area that we have done this inside of our organization and for a customer as well, to give you some ideas of how you can take this idea, which is kind of more theoretical at this point, and actually implement it to a real solution. So this is an application called Fleet Manager. Fleet Manager is something that we built for a major auto manufacturer. This is kind of the UFO demo version of it. So it's just what we use for demoing the application. But this was built for cars, and those cars would be reserved for demos that were going to be done with those different vehicles. So they wanted to create an application that looked like a custom app that was built entirely as a custom interface. We didn't want it to look like Jira. We wanted it to interact with Jira, but look like its own application. And so we built this fleet management system that behind the scenes stores everything in the Atlassian stack. So all the data for this application is actually stored both as JSM assets as well as tickets in a JSM project for the reservations. So if I had this app running and went and clicked reserve on one of these UFOs, you would see a new request show up in the project for that JSM project through the portal. And it would say, hey, this person's requesting to reserve this vehicle. And then it could be handled either through the app or through, as a Jira admin, accessing that data in the JSM project. So what this accomplished for us in the first place was that we were able to create a fully custom app, its own interface, and basically we just used Atlassian products as the infrastructure. So Atlassian products are through Forge, they're actually hosting the information, and hosting the data and the servers. So Forge is going to be running on Atlassian servers. So this is a Forge app, meaning that everything that we've built here doesn't have to be handled by our own instance of a AWS instance or internal server. It's all running on Forge servers in Atlassian's server space. And it also means that all of our data is stored by the Atlassian products, and we can interact with it through the APIs and Forge connection points. So that means that most of the database management can actually happen from the perspective of a Jira admin. And beyond that, we kind of combined this with Atlassian Intelligence. Atlassian Intelligence, with the searching features and the summarizing features and all of these different cool things we've been talking about, now has access to the data for this custom app. So I've created a custom application to handle all these reservations. And you can imagine now that if I went into my search for my issues in Jira, like Sam was showing earlier, I could search for, show me all the reservations for this particular vehicle, and it'll show me all of those. And maybe I could say, search for all the reservations for this vehicle between these dates, and it'll search for those. And I can write those queries in English language to get to the data for what I have in this application. And it has lowered the barrier to creating this custom app in the first place, while also giving me the power of AI on top of it. This is just showing a screenshot of those different reservations being created. So these are actually tickets in the JSM project for reservations that were being made on those vehicles. Just so you can see an example of that. But now we can search, summarize, and automate some interactions here. We could actually even have a JSM AI agent handling a lot of the reservations behind the scenes so that we could almost have all of this automated and not have to even worry about interacting with it, except for in some particular use cases. One more thing to mention is another product called Rovo. I'm not going to go really much at all into what Rovo is in this context because we're talking about Atlassian Intelligence. And Rovo is a separate product, but it builds on top of a lot of the same AI feature sets. This is a early access product that we've got access to and been able to create some demos with and play around with. And we have a lot of information about how we can kind of build this into a larger scale solution. But Rovo is going to act as a new AI product that's going to act as essentially a teammate on your projects. So the goal behind Rovo is to be able to do actions on the behalf of users and be able to interact with your different places and different people and different teams as like an additional teammate on top of those projects. So that's going to be a great thing to see in the future. You'll see a link in the chat as well for a webinar that I did not too long ago about Rovo specifically. So if you want to see me dive into this diagram and where Rovo fits in and see all the demos that we have around Rovo and the different agents that we've built with Rovo, you can go watch that video as well. And it's on our YouTube channel from a webinar I did a couple weeks ago. All right, so that's going to take us back to kind of doing some concluding topics here and just kind of closing us out. So if you have any questions, be thinking about those. I'm going to pass it back to Sam for this final section here to close us out.
Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. Yeah, as mentioned earlier on in the presentation, I just very briefly wanted to point to some upcoming webinars and other content that we have coming down the pipeline. And I believe Brianna will share some links to our website that you can take a look at, also to our YouTube channel if she hasn't already. But we've got some exciting things coming up. We've got a Jira boot camp. I described that a little bit earlier on, Confluence boot camp. We also have this new offering called Ask the Experts. And I believe the topic for our next one is going to be cloud migrations. And so there'll be a panel of our experts within that webinar that'll be able to answer your questions and hopefully address some of your concerns or needs in the realm of migrating to cloud. And so I'm really excited about that offering and that webinar in particular. And again, just like this one, it's free and consumable by you at no cost. And we have a Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar that's coming up as well. Really, really great if you're trying to get your feet wet with Jira Service Management in general. So I encourage you, I guess the short version of this is I encourage you to visit our website and take a look at what we have coming up. And again, this is just a subset of what we have coming up in August. We have everything planned out pretty well in advance where you can kind of look in the months following to see what's coming down the pipeline. And then last, but certainly not least, we just wanted to be sure to share our contact information with you. So here are our email addresses, and I truly mean it. Please reach out to us directly if you have any questions that either you might be too shy to share here today. Feel free to reach out to us directly. We'd love to hear from you, answer any kind of lingering questions that you have with Atlassian Intelligence or Atlassian Intelligence as it pertains to custom development. We'd love to hear from you. Also encourage you to reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we can network there as well. All right, and with that, I know we've only got a couple of minutes, but just want to take some time to answer any questions that you may have. So please feel free, if you haven't already, to post those in the chat. Okay, one question I have here. I'm on Jira Standard. how do I start leveraging Atlassian Intelligence? Oh yeah, okay. So on that one, it would be you would have to bump up to a premium or enterprise tier of Atlassian licensing to leverage everything that we showed you today. Um, I will say that as a Platinum Solutions partner, we're well versed in handling licensing for organizations. So we may not be actually under contract for some kind of implementation with you, but we are happy to offer licensing services, even if we aren't working with you directly on an implementation. So please, if you have any questions about licensing, just in general, reach out to Joshua and I, and we're happy to help facilitate that process of jumping to premium in our enterprise if your organization is at that point. Okay. I think that was our only question today. I know we're at the top of the hour here, and so we'll go ahead and call it. Again, offer still stands. Please take note of the email addresses if you haven't already, and please feel free to reach out to Joshua and I if you have any lingering questions as you're thinking about this content as the week concludes. I just want to thank you so much for your attention during this presentation. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.